Bob Woodward releases audio from the Trump administration, leading everybody on the internet to say, hey, who's Bob Woodward? Trump releases names of new people that could be on the Supreme Court shortlist, so we'll go over a couple of those. San Francisco brings up a red sky, giving us a few vibes of the apocalypse. And Dearborn in Michigan opens up a non-POC cafe to help students air their grievances and gets backlash. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We've got a bunch to get to today. We had that one slow news day over on Tuesday, and the news did not give us a break after that. So enjoy the slow day while you can, and we have got a bunch of stuff to get to today. A bunch of stupid stuff, really. I do have one that's not green check verified, but I thought it was interesting to look at, but take that with a grain of salt, of course, and we will analyze that as we go along here. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows like the Daily Ignoramus, the Generational Gap. They just came back on for their second time on their new night last night, so go over there and check them out. We also carry the Freckles and Brit Show, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. Head on over there and check us out over there. Pick up some of our swag and help us support great creators. All right, let's get into the stocks here to start with. After seeing a couple days where we saw things going down into the red, we had another rally, about 400 points, 439 points actually, 1.6% up, on a pretty steady rise. Now, it looks like the futures are not going to hold true with that rise here, so we'll talk a bit about what's happening there, but it looked like a pretty good day throughout the day on the Dow yesterday. Previous close at 27.5, new close of 27.940. They're calling it the best day since April, which, hey, good is good. All right, let's get on into Investors Business Daily. From Ed Carson, Dow Jones Futures, stock market rally rebounds. Three giants reclaim buy points, but remain cautious. RH skyrockets. Dow Jones Futures were little changed Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures. Apple, Zoom Video, and Tesla stock led Wednesday's stock market rally rebound, with Microsoft, Amazon, Adobe, ServiceNow, and PayPal making bullish moves around a key support level. Cybersecurity plays Zscaler stock, upscale home furnishings retailer RH, and new IPO BigCommerce reported earnings after the close. Zscaler fell slightly early Thursday despite better than expected results and guidance. RH stock spiked on blowout results and bullish commentary, signaling the new high. Both stocks rebounded from their 50-day lines on Friday. E-commerce software maker BigCommerce fell sharply after beating results. Shares have plunged from their August 27th peak after skyrocketing from an IPO base. The stock market rally showed positive action Wednesday after big losses in the prior three sessions, with the NASDAQ rebounding from its 50-day line. So did Tesla, though it's well off last week's high. Microsoft, Amazon, and PayPal moved to or above their 50-day moving averages, with Amazon stock reclaiming a buy point. Adobe and ServiceNow stock bounced from their 50-day lines. Both are back above buy points. Apple rebounded from above its 10-week line, while Zoom Video stock jumped, ending a skid since its huge earnings gap up at the recent stock market rally top. But it was a good day after 3 bad days. Wednesday's volume, which was much lighter in the prior 3 sessions. Meanwhile, the stock market rally hasn't shown much fear, which is reason to worry. No TikTok sale. In other news, the U.S. government and TikTok parent ByteDance are reportedly in talks to see if the Chinese internet giant can avoid a full sale of its TikTok U.S. operations. President Trump had threatened to shut TikTok down in the U.S. on September 15th if ByteDance didn't sell it. But China's government recently took steps to make a sale more difficult. Microsoft and fellow Dow stock Walmart reportedly have teamed up on a bid. Both stocks have rallied on TikTok deal hopes, and they both gained ground on Wednesday. Finally, Taiwan Semiconductor reported August revenue rose 16% versus July versus a year earlier. Taiwan Semi stock, Wednesday's IBD stock of the day, rose slightly before the open. Apple stock, Tesla stock, Amazon, Microsoft, Adobe, and ServiceNow are all on the IBD leaderboard. Taiwan Semi is on the leaderboard watch list. Microsoft stock, Adobe, ServiceNow, and PayPal are IBD long-term leaders. Adobe, Amazon, Microsoft, ServiceNow, and PayPal stocks are on the IBD 50 list. For the futures, this will be a brief one here. Dow Jones futures fell 0.3% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures retreated 0.3%, and NASDAQ 100 futures were right at break-even, boosted by Tesla stock. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. That is especially true during periods of stock market volatility. So, that's what we're seeing from the futures and IBD off of that. And yeah, who would know? Who knew that China would make it hard for somebody else to buy one of their properties? It's almost like they have an agenda. I don't know what their agenda is. Maybe they do still want to keep spying. Maybe they just want to make a bunch of money. I don't know what their agenda is, but hey, it's just like China has an agenda with their intellectual property. So we'll see what's happening there. It looks like we saw a slight rise. Well, a slight fall, but I don't know. We're on track to see another rise. We'll see what happens tomorrow off of this here. Let's see what happened yesterday with CNBC. Dow surges more than 400 points as tech's best day since April sparks a market-wide rally from Fred Imbert and Maggie Fitzgerald. Stock tripped higher on Wednesday as tech shares posted their best day in about 4 months, clawing back some of the steep losses that knocked the S&P 500 and NASDAQ composite back below their record highs. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 439.58 points higher, or 1.6%, at 27,940.47. The S&P 500 jumped 2% to 3398.96, and the NASDAQ Composite advanced 2.7% to 11,141.56. It was the S&P 500's best day since June 5th, when it popped 2.6%. The NASDAQ had its biggest one-day gain since April 29th, when it surged 3.6%. At the S&P 500 sector level, tech rallied 3.4% and posted its biggest one-day gain since late April 29th. Over the past week, however, the sector is still down 8.4%. We're due for a bounce, said Christian Frommertz, CEO of Tribeca Trade Group. We had 3 days of decent selling, and these things tend to get a little overextended, but Frommertz is not ready to sound the all clear. I want to see if this bounce can hold to see if there's a real buying underneath it, he said. Shares of Tesla, which had their single worst day ever on Tuesday, dropping 21%, ended Wednesday's session up more than 10% after a late day surge. Apple, which has lost more than 6% of the previous session, was up by 4%. Those two stocks, along with Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, lost $1 trillion in market value over the last 3 days. All 6 rebounded on Wednesday. The major averages trimmed their gains in the final minutes of the session after the Wall Street Journal reported ByteDance and the U.S. government were discussing ways to avoid the sale of TikTok's U.S. operations. Walmart and Microsoft, 2 companies that were in talks to buy TikTok, gave back some of their solid gains. So, it seems like the TikTok thing was buoying this up a little bit here, but techs are coming back, and we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the day. Let's move on into the news, and the thing that lit everybody up yesterday. Play it down. Trump admits to concealing the true threat of the coronavirus in a new Woodward book, which had fallen from number 1 to number 9 in the best-selling list, I might add. So, hey, it might be time to advertise again. But let's see what Jamie Gangel, Jeremy Herb, and Elizabeth Stewart have to say over on CNN. President Trump admitted he knew weeks before the first confirmed U.S. coronavirus death that the virus was dangerous, airborne, and highly contagious, and more deadly than your strenuous flus, and that he repeatedly played it down publicly, according to legendary journalist Bob Woodward in his new book, Rage. "This is deadly stuff," Trump told Woodward on February 7th. In a series of interviews with Woodward, Trump revealed that he had a surprising level of detail about the threat of the virus earlier than previously known. "Pretty amazing," Trump told Woodward, adding that the coronavirus was maybe 5 times more deadly than the flu. Trump's admissions are in stark contrast to his frequent public comments, at the time insisting the virus was going to disappear and all work out fine. The book, using Trump's own words, depicts a president who has betrayed the public trust and the most fundamental responsibilities of his office. In Rage, Trump says the job of a president is to keep our country safe. But in early February, Trump told Woodward he knew how deadly the virus was, and in March he admitted that he kept that knowledge hidden. That he kept that knowledge hidden from the public. I wanted to always play it down, Trump told Woodward on March 19th, even as he had declared a national emergency over the virus days earlier. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic. If instead of playing down what we knew, Trump had acted decisively in early February with a strict shutdown and a consistent message to wear masks, social distance, and wash hands, experts believe that 1,000 of Americans' lives could have been saved. No, it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older. Yeah, exactly. Young people, too. Plenty of young people. The startling revelations in Rage, which CNN obtained ahead of its September 15th release, were made during 18 wide-ranging interviews Trump gave Woodward from December 5th, 2019 to July 21st of 2020. The interviews were recorded by Woodward with Trump's permission, and CNN has obtained copies of the audio tapes. Rage also includes brutal assessments of Trump's presidency from many of its former top national security officials, including former Defense Secretary James Mattis, former Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats, and former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Mattis is quoted as calling Trump dangerous and unfit to be commander-in-chief. Woodward writes that Coats continued to harbor the secret belief, one that had grown rather than lessened, although unsupported by intelligence proof that Putin had something on Trump. Woodward continues, writing that Coats felt how else to explain the president's behavior. Coats could see no other explanation. So, I looked at this. First and foremost, and we're going to see a couple of responses to go along with this, but first and foremost, the book is coming out very soon. And Woodward is a journalist. I don't know where he was a journalist for. I actually know nothing about Bob Woodward, to be completely honest. Until today, I'd never heard the name. Yesterday, rather, I'd never heard the name. But he's got this book coming out, and CNN is suddenly creating a commercial for him with these leaked tapes that may have been selectively edited. We don't know. Now, I will be the first one to come out and say that after everything that we've seen over the past, how long has it been? 3 months of riots at this point? 100 days? It's been more than that. Either way, 100 days of riots in Portland, riots across the country, more and more riots. What do you think happens when you cause a panic? If anything, the whole thing with George Floyd showed us why we didn't want to come out and create a panic around the coronavirus. If anything, that's what we can take away from that. So that's what we're seeing up off of this here. And it's just, this is a commercial. That's all that this is. And CNN is coming right out and doing so. And of course, Twitter is playing in on that. And they made this the #1 trend for quite a while yesterday. We saw that going around Twitter. Those of us on Twitter saw that. So, absolutely, this is #1 trend. And this book is going to hit the #1 of the New York Times bestseller as soon as it comes out. I thought it was out already. I will make the retraction on that from something I said earlier on in the show. But no. This book is coming out in 5 days, and they want it to hit the top of the bestseller list. They want everybody to go out and buy it. Just like the Mary Trump book, and just like the Michael Cohen book, and just like the fucking John Bolton book. All right, let's get some responses here. I've got a pair back-to-back from Fox News. Starting off, Fauci tells Fox he didn't get any sense that Trump was distorting anything about coronavirus, from Sam Dorman. White House Coronavirus Task Force member Dr. Anthony Fauci told the Daily Briefing Wednesday that he does not believe President Trump distorted facts about the coronavirus pandemic. Earlier Wednesday, the Washington Post published audio from an interview of President Trump conducted by veteran journalist Bob Woodward in March, during which Trump admitted he wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic. On the Daily Briefing, host John Roberts asked Fauci if he thought Trump had played down the threat of the virus. No, I didn't, Fauci responded. I didn't get any sense that he was distorting anything. I mean, in my discussions with him, they were always straightforward about the concerns that we had. We related that to him, and when he would go out, I'd hear him discussing the same sorts of things. He would often say, we just got through with a briefing with the group from the task force, and would talk about it. So, it may have happened, but I've not seen that kind of distortion. Shortly after audio of the Trump-Woodward interview was published, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany defended Trump, arguing that he acted like good leaders do by staying calm in the midst of a crisis. She added that the president has never lied to the American public on COVID. Roberts also asked Fauci, head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, in case you didn't know that's what he was at this point, whether Trump broke with his advisors in trying to downplay the virus. You were there through the whole thing, Roberts said. Was that the playbook, or was that the president just doing his own direction? I don't think so, John, Fauci responded. I don't recall anything different than in our discussions that we had with the president, that he said things quite similar publicly. The March interview, along with 18 other on-the-record conversations between Woodward and Trump, formed the basis of Woodward's book Rage, due out later this month. I didn't really go over any of the text since it just came out, Fauci told Roberts. But, in my discussions and the discussions of other task force members with the president, we're talking about the reality of what's going on. And then, when we would get up in front of the press conferences, which were very, very common, after our discussions with the president, he didn't really say anything different than we discussed when we were with him. He went on. I may not be tuned in to the right thing that they're talking about, but I didn't see any discrepancies between what he told us and what we told him, and what he came out publicly and said. According to the Post, Woodward reports in the book that Fauci has described Trump as being on a separate channel and offering rudderless leadership. Woodward has Fauci saying Trump's attention span is like a minus number, and his sole purpose is to get reelected. Fauci told Roberts Wednesday that he didn't recall saying those things. So Fauci's coming out, and he's on Team Trump, and he's saying, oh yeah, he didn't say any of these things. Now, once again, we won't know until we pick up the book, and even then, you're going to want to take that book with a grain of salt, but the other thing that goes along with that, of course, is how long is it going to be before the left now turns on Fauci, who was the esteemed messiah of the coronavirus at first. But now he's taking Trump's side, so now he's going to be just another evil orange man follower. Let's keep reading here, because the Donald has something to say in all of this here. Trump defends coronavirus response after Woodward interview audio published. I don't want to scare people. From Charles Kreitz. President Trump defended comments he made earlier this year about the coronavirus pandemic in interviews with journalist Bob Woodward, telling Fox News' Hannity Wednesday that he wanted to show a calmness. I'm the leader of the country. I can't be jumping up and down and scaring people, Trump told Sean Hannity. I don't want to scare people. I want people not to panic, and that's exactly what I did. Excerpts from some of the interviews, which formed the basis of Woodward's forthcoming book, Rage, were published by the Washington Post earlier Wednesday. In early February, Trump told Woodward that the coronavirus was deadly stuff while publicly comparing it to seasonal flu. More than a month later, on March 19th, Trump admitted to Woodward that he wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic, Trump added at the time. On Wednesday night, the president condemned Woodward as an author of hit jobs. He does hit jobs with everybody. He even did it with Obama. Constant hit jobs on George W. Bush. Well, George W. fucking Bush deserved it. I guess they did 3 books. They were all terrible, Trump said. So I figured, let's give it a little shot. I'll speak to him. It wasn't a big deal. I speak to him, and let's see. I don't know if the book is good or bad. I have no idea. I probably, almost definitely won't read it because I don't have time to read it. But I gave it a little bit of a shot. Sounds like it's not going to be good. Trump also defended his early response to the pandemic, citing his late January decision to limit flights to U.S. from China, a move Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden panned as in keeping with what he's called Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. Yeah, that's the other fucking thing off of this. Trump saw this coming while they were trying to impeach him and said, okay, hey, we're going to limit travel to China. Oh, he's racist. He's xenophobic. He's racist. He just wants a completely white country. And now, the narratives, he didn't act soon enough. If you look at the representatives of Joe Biden, you see what they were saying. They were saying, no problem, this won't be a problem, Trump told Hannity. He didn't think it was going to be a problem until months later. He was very late. The president also recalled House Speaker Nancy Pelosi touring San Francisco's Chinatown in late February in an apparent bid to ease fears about the coronavirus. Nobody wanted me to do the ban on China, and as you know, shortly thereafter, I instituted a ban on travel from Europe, and that was even more controversial, and it was good because I saw what was going on in Italy, Spain, and France. We did a ban there, Trump said, and if we didn't do those bans, we would have had numbers that were much, much worse. So, yeah, honestly, with everything that went along with this, I will give a good Trump to the fact that he didn't want to create a panic. Because like I said, now we have panic in the streets because we don't know whose city is going to be next. We've got people arming up like crazy, which in and of itself is a good thing. But most of your pundits are going to look back and say, oh, that's a bad thing that people are arming up like that. There's a lot going on with this story, and once again, I have no idea who Bob Woodward even is. But apparently it's a big deal, the fact that he's releasing this book and that it's going to come out on September 15th, and everybody should go buy it because, whoa, it's going to bring the orange man down. This is another fucking election year tactic, just like the Mary Trump thing. And how far did that go, by the way? Or Bob Bolton's book? Or Michael Cohen's book? Has anybody read that fucking piece of trash? It's all election year tactic. That's all that we're seeing up off of this at this point. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in what Woodward said. We're going to talk about it on Monday anyway, but I don't have a lot of faith in any of this. I don't have a lot of faith that this is still going to be a thing come Monday. But that's what we'll see from this. Let's keep going here. Speaking of general politics, Attorney General William Barr gives an update on criminal charges in the Durham administration from Ryan Saavedra. U.S. Attorney General William Barr strongly suggests during an NBC News interview on Wednesday night that there are more criminal charges coming in U.S. Attorney John Durham's criminal investigation of the origins of the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into the 2016 Trump campaign. NBC News reporter Pete Williams asked Barr, okay, would you say it's unlikely that there will be further criminal charges? Barr responded, no, I wouldn't say that at all, no. During a Fox News interview last month, Barr said that there were significant developments in the criminal investigation before the upcoming election. There are two different things going on, Barr said. One, I've said that the American people need to know what actually happened. We need to get through the story of what happened in 2016 and 2017. Now, out. That will be done. The second aspect of this is if people cross the line, if people involved in that activity violated the criminal law, they will be charged, Barr continued. And John Durham is an independent man, highly experienced, and his investigation is pursuing a pace. There was some delay because of COVID, but I'm satisfied with the progress. And I've seen that there are going to be developments, significant developments, before the election, but we're not doing this on the election schedule. We're aware of the election. We're not going to do anything inappropriate before the election. We're not going to be dictated by the schedule. What's dictating the timing of this are developments in the case. And there will be developments. Tomorrow there will be development in the case. It's not an earth-shattering development, but it's an indication that things are moving along in the proper pace as dictated by the facts of this investigation, Barr concluded. When we feel we can provide a crime beyond reasonable doubt, it will be charged. I can tell you that. During a congressional hearing in July, Barr was pressured by Democrats to commit to not releasing results from the criminal investigation before the election. Representative Debbie Mucarsel-Powell asked Barr, under oath, do you commit to not releasing any report by Mr. Durham before the November election? No, Barr responded. You don't commit to that. Mucarsel-Powell pressed. No, Barr responded. So you won't go by Department of Justice policy that you won't interfere in any political investigations before the November election? Mucarsel-Powell asked. I will be very careful. I know Justice Department policy, Barr answered. We're not going to interfere. In fact, I've made it clear we're not going to tolerate interference. So, we're going to see some stuff coming up out of this probably in the next couple days. It'll be good to see more closure to all of this. Looking forward to it, of course. And let's keep going. From the New York Post. Women face hate crime charges after attacking Trump supporters outside the DNC. From Yaron Steinbuch. 2 women have been indicted on hate crime charges after grabbing a 7-year-old's Make America Great Again cap in front of his mother outside the DNC. Olivia Winslow and Cameron Amy, both 21, were indicted by a grand jury Tuesday on felony charges of robbery, conspiracy, and hate crimes, as well as a misdemeanor charge of endangering the welfare of a child. Amy was also indicted on a misdemeanor charge of assaulting a man who tried to recover the cap, attempting to assault the boy's mom, and offensive touching of the child. Well, given the fact that Cuties came out yesterday, that's going to be a pretty big stretch as to what qualifies for that. The women are accused of committing the crimes for the purpose of interfering with the victim's free exercise or enjoyment of any right, privilege, or immunity protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, or committed said crime because the victim had exercised or enjoyed said rights or rights. According to the indictment, violence in any form is unacceptable, but harming another person, let alone a child, because of the expressions of their views, betrays the principles on which our country was founded, said Delaware Attorney General Kathleen Jennings, a Democrat who has joined multiple lawsuits against the Trump administration. And that's coming from a Democrat, by the way. Just keep that in mind as we go along with this story. Free speech, free assembly, and free expression are sacred, no matter whether we agree with the opinions expressed or especially when we don't, Jennings added in a statement. The incident, which was captured on video, went viral, occurred outside a restaurant at the Wilmington Riverfront on August 20th, a few hundred feet from where Joe Biden gave his DNC acceptance speech. The footage shows the 2 women damaging signs supporting Trump and taking a red MAGA cap. Get it, Liv, get it, Amy tells Winslow, who picks up the cap from the ground and tosses it. The boy chases the woman, saying, "That's somebody else's hat," before Amy picks it up again and walks away with it. "Mom, call 911, the boy says. The clip later shows Amy apparently slugging a man who tried to get the cap back before she throws it over a fence. Amy then approaches and confronts the woman shooting the video. So, yeah, absolutely. Don't fuck with kids. Seriously. Don't mess with kids. Now, my thoughts aside, well, no, they're not aside. I'm going to bring them right out at this point here. You shouldn't be putting a MAGA cap on your 7-year-old and bringing him outside the DNC and wondering why somebody fucking assaulted him in this polarized climate. You shouldn't be fucking doing that. There's no reason at all to put your child in that situation. None. None. Everybody is wrong in this situation, except for the kid, who had no better idea what was going on. I could go and ask my 7-year-old nephew what Make America Great Again means, and he couldn't tell me. Because they have no idea. They're innocent at this point. So no, I will stand by the fact that the parent should not have brought the kid there. But the ignorance on that side doesn't excuse the ignorance of these 2 women who absolutely should be charged with a crime for assaulting a child. I don't know if hate crime is appropriate for this, unfortunately. But for God's sakes, you assaulted a child. Get a fucking clue, people. Alright, let's keep going here. So we've got a list of names that could be potentially on the Supreme Court if Trump gets a second term. We'll read this from the Daily Wire. Cotton Cruz, Hawley respond after Trump adds them to the list of potential Supreme Court picks from Eric Quintanar. President Trump released an update to his list of Supreme Court nominees on Wednesday afternoon to reflect the larger pool of candidates he would consider in order to fill a potential vacancy should he be reelected for a second term. The new list, which is an expansion of the existing list, features a mixture of judges, ambassadors, and other attorneys, including 3 U.S. Senators, Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, all of whom, the president vowed, would be jurists in the mold of the Justices Antonin Scalia, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito. Every one of these individuals will ensure equal justice, equal treatment, and equal rights for citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed, said Trump. Together, we will defend our righteous heritage and preserve our magnificent American way of life. In statements released after three sitting Republican senators expressed varying levels of enthusiasm about the position, with Hawley remarking that he wanted to continue to serve in the Senate. I appreciate the president's confidence in me, listing me as a potential Supreme Court nominee, but as I told the president, Missourians elected me to fight for them in the Senate. I have no interest in the High Court. I look forward to confirming constitutional conservatives, said Hawley in a statement. Cruz praised the role of the Supreme Court in his statement, but didn't indicate a significant level of interest in the position itself, although he didn't outright reject it. I'm grateful for the president's confidence in me and for his leadership in nominating principled constitutionalists to serve the federal bench over the last 4 years. As a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I've been proud to help confirm to the bench over 200 of President Trump's judicial nominees, including 2 to the Supreme Court. It's humbling and an immense honor to be considered for the Supreme Court. The High Court plays a unique role in defending our Constitution, and there's no greater responsibility in public service than to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. In the Senate, I have been blessed to lead the fight to preserve our constitutional liberties every day, to defend the rights of 29 million Texans, and I look forward to continuing to do so for many years to come, said Cruz in a statement. Of the 3 senators, Cotton indicated the most interest in the position. I'm honored that President Trump asked me to consider serving on the Supreme Court. I'm grateful for his confidence. I will always heed the call of service to our nation. The Supreme Court could use some more justices who understand the differences between applying the law and making the law, which the court does when it invents the right to an abortion, infringes on religious freedoms, and erodes the Second Amendment. So, of all 3 of those people, and I actually don't really want to see any of those 3 people on the bench, honestly, I could think of a lot better people to serve on the bench at this point. But of the 3, if gun to my head I had to pick one, I would actually probably pick Cruz. Hawley is too much of a political freshman. He's not experienced enough in the Washington Beltway to try and resist it. He's fresh, he's new. Yes, he would get a long seat because he's young, but he's very fresh, he's very new. And I don't think the time is right for him. Maybe a few years down the road. And Cotton, I think, is just a little bit too zealous. Yes, I understand the idea that he knows the difference between making the law and applying it, but I think he's just a little bit too zealous for me to be comfortable with him on the Supreme Court. But Cruz, I've actually listened to Ted Cruz talk. I listened to Verdict with him and Michael Knowles. Almost every time they put out an episode, I have a listen to it. Cruz is really principled. He's more on the mind of liberty than an agenda. I know that every Democrat in the world will argue that point against me, but he's way more on liberty than having an agenda and the Constitution than fulfilling promises to his base. Cruz, out of the 3, I think I'd be very comfortable seeing as a Supreme Court justice. Maybe not right now, but at some point I would be very comfortable seeing that. So, that's where I have to say on that. Let's keep going here. Now, this next article here is not green check verified, so do take it with a grain of salt. I have not independently verified anything in the article, mainly because the mainstream media is burying the story. So if it is true, then they're trying very, very hard to make sure that you don't know this. But I'm going to read from the National Justice, which I've never heard of before. Arrested Boogaloo Boy, portrayed by media as far-right, is a self-described left-wing anarchist. From Eric Stryker. The FBI announced charges against 2 members of the Boogaloo Boys yesterday for allegedly attempting to provide material support for Palestinian resistance group Hamas. 30-year-old Michael Solomon and 22-year-old Benjamin Ryan Teeter were approached by an FBI informant pretending to be a member of Hamas. The informant then entrapped Teeter and Solomon in a ridiculous and bogus terror plot. Both individuals have been active supporters of anti-white race riots in the Minnesota area that followed the death of George Floyd, but the FBI does not appear interested in prosecuting their actual criminal activity in this regard. The FBI and media have used this incident as an opportunity to try and simultaneously besmirch the far right, white nationalist, and the Palestinian rights movements, two causes they unnecessarily hound in support of America's Zionist rulers. As you can see, there's a reason that this isn't green check verified. They do this in order to take attention off the real culprits of violence, Black Lives Matter, and various left-wing anarchist paramilitary groups who enjoy the support of over 600 Jewish groups. Yeah, this came to me from Midget B over in the Discord, and if you know anything about Midget B, you will understand why he read this and why he put this up in here. Now, I didn't put this up because I have any reason to detract from the Jewish nation of Israel, Jews in general, or anything else like that. I have no interest in doing any of that, but this does get you to think, because the media does have an agenda to make you think that some of this violence is coming from the far righters. I don't know, and I wasn't able to find a criminal record before the show, where these people actually stand. I know that we see some tweets here. We advocate the hunting of white supremacists. Screenshotted, not directly linked. I'm a left anarchist, so some of this can be manipulated as well. So, once again, just take this with a grain of salt. But keep your mind open to the fact that this might come out. And with that, we're going to move on from that. From The Statesman. This came to me over on Twitter via Elaine, the Libertarian Red One, who sits gracefully on the left side of the screen during the RedNet show. Supreme Court rejects GOP bid to kick 44 Libertarians off the ballot. From Chuck Lindell, the Texas Supreme Court rejected a GOP attempt to remove 44 Libertarian candidates from the November ballot, saying the Republicans waited too long to challenge their opponents' eligibility. A long list of Republican candidates joined by GOP organizations argued that Libertarians were ineligible to appear on the ballot because they did not pay a new filing fee or collect the required petition signatures to avoid the fee. But the all-Republican Supreme Court said the deadline to challenge the candidate eligibility was August 21st, while the GOP challenge wasn't filed at the state's highest civil court until August 26th. The election code does not permit the GOP to bypass that deadline by belatedly challenging the Libertarians' applications, the court said in an unsigned opinion delivered Saturday evening. Chief Justice Nathan Hecht and Justice Jeff Boyd, whose Libertarian opponents were challenged by party officials, did not take part in the decision, the court said. Democrats had successfully sued to remove 3 Green Party candidates from the ballot for failure to pay the filing fee, winning August 19th at the Austin-based Third Court of Appeals. The following day, Republican candidates and organizations contacted LP leaders to demand that dozens of candidates be declared ineligible for failure to pay a filing fee, as required by state law passed this year. The Libertarians refused that and followed up demands. The lays are last delivered August 25th, according to GOP legal briefs. The GOP challenge, which initially targeted 41 Libertarians but was later increased to 44, argued that although the deadline to challenge the candidate eligibility had passed, the deadline to challenge an improper candidate application is September 18th, when ballots are mailed to members of the military serving overseas. The GOP urged the Supreme Court to act quickly, however, they acknowledging that the Texas Secretary of State's office had already begun arranging to print and distribute the November ballots. In a Friday filing, Attorney General Ken Paxton, speaking on behalf of the Secretary of State Ruth Hughes, told the court that the Republican interpretation of the state law on deadlines was correct and argued that the court could order the Libertarians to be removed from the ballot for filing an improper candidate application. The Supreme Court disagreed, ruling that Republicans and Paxton were looking at the wrong section of the election code. Libertarian candidates who are nominated at a party convention instead of primary election did not file candidate applications that can be challenged at the late date, the court said. Instead, Libertarians file an application for nomination by convention, and those are subject to a different set of rules and deadlines, the court said. Alright, I'm going to just read briefly into this section, and then I'll give my take on this one here. Desperate attempt. Whitney Billeux, chair of the Libertarian Party of Texas, praised the court for battling away the desperate Republican attempt. They were trying a last-ditch effort to eliminate competition and limit the choices for voters, Bill Yo said on Saturday. Libertarians are generally seen as receiving votes that would otherwise go to Republicans, while Green Party candidates do the same for Democrats. Bill Yo said the real fight is taking place in federal court, where the party is challenging the candidate filing fee as unconstitutional, and in a state court where separate challenge by Libertarian candidates is pending at the 14th Court of Appeals. The state challenge resulted in a district court order finding the fee unconstitutional, but that ruling is on hold while the appeal continues. So, that's what we're seeing up off of this out of Texas. And this is what I have to say to the GOP in Texas. Now, the Republican Party has had a very strong hold on Texas for a very long time. That is being challenged right now. And I can see where the GOP might be getting desperate. We have a lot of people coming in from California, going to Texas, and common knowledge, at least among the pollsters on the Democrat side, is that means that is going to saturate Texas into a deep, deep blue state. Never mind the fact that people left California should not be voting for the things that made California the reason that they left California, but that's another story that's another conversation for another day. But if the Republican Party can't overcome their libertarian challengers, then I suggest it's incumbent on the Republican Party to put up better candidates if they want to stay in power. And that's what I'm saying to everything here, honestly. I've been saying that on the presidential level, even though I don't necessarily agree with either of the third-party candidates right now. I know that a lot of people do. I know that a lot of people are excited to vote for Joe. I don't even know who's running for the Green Party right now. But I'm sure that there are a lot of people that are going to be excited to vote for him. There are still a lot of people that are excited to write in Bernie Sanders for this election. And that's what I have to say. I mean, we have, for the two mainline party candidates right now, we have two of the worst choices in history to be the president. Only succeeded by the worst choices that we had last time, and the horrible choices we had the time before that and the time before that. The mainline the mainline parties are putting up shitty people to be the president. Over and over again, they're putting up these absolutely horrible, shitty people to try and become the president. And then wonder why people go to the third party and do the vote. If you want the vote of the people who are voting third party, put up better candidates. Now, I do understand the fact that right now the GOP is kind of hands tied with the incumbent. But seriously, if you want a better election, if you want more votes, and you don't want people to go to the third parties, put up better candidates. And that's the same thing that I'm going to say to the GOP of Texas right now. If you don't want your voters to go to libertarian candidates, put up better candidates. Plain and simple. Now, I realize you're fucked at this election level because everybody's application's already got to be in, but yeah, for future reference, put up better candidates. First and foremost. All right, let's keep going off of this one here. Now, I found this one just a little bit interesting. I'm going to save this article too. We'll talk about this on Monday because Elaine was the one that brought this to my attention. So, here's one for you. This is from our former President Barack Obama. The fires across the West Coast are just the latest examples of very real ways of changing climate is changing our communities. Protecting our planet is on the ballot. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does. With these pictures of the eerie red sky in the Bay Area. Now, I reached out to Harvey McLeod, and she is safe over in the Bay Area. So nobody has to go and worry about her. Well, I would still give out a little prayer for her, but we don't have to worry too much. She's out safe and ready, and she sent me another picture, but I didn't want to put that one up specifically because I don't know how close that would be to doxing her at this point. So we'll just take the stuff that the former president put up from Jessica Christian over at the San Francisco Chronicle. But I mean, yeah, we're seeing the red sky out there like this, and it is coming from the wildfires, of course. But I mean, think about this for a second. And I think I scared some people over on Twitter when I brought this up. But think about this for just a second right now. As of right now, what we're looking at in the world, We're seeing this red, very apocalyptic looking sky. Consider the fact that we've had coronavirus, an economic downturn, riots, and even a brief stint with murder hornets. Plague, famine, war, and pestilence. And now we're seeing red sky like this. Doesn't that make you feel just a little bit uneasy right now? Because it makes me feel a little bit uneasy. So, thank you, former President Obama, for that. Let's keep going. All right, the title article. 45 minutes into the show. From NBC Sports. Colin Kaepernick's Madden rating is higher than 17 starters. Please turn off your ad blocker. This video is unavailable. If an ad blocker is running, please disable and reload the page to start the video. I don't want to watch the fucking video. And I don't want to see your advertisements either. The folks who create the video game that enjoys the exclusive license from the NFL not only has welcomed quarterback Colin Kaepernick back to the game, but has also given him an 81 overall rating. That number is higher than the initial rating for more than half the league's starter quarterbacks. Kaepernick's 81 is higher than 17 other Week 1 starters. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill was an 80. Raiders quarterback Derek Carr, 79. Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. Patriots quarterback Cam Newton. Oh, I didn't know that Cam Newton went to the Patriots. But also because of all the social justice bullshit, I haven't been paying attention to the NFL. Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. Rams quarterback Jared Goff. This is going to get really long really quick. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. Panthers quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Dolphins quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. Jets quarterback Sam Darnold. Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. Bears quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. Broncos quarterback Drew Lock. Washington quarterback Dwayne Haskins. Jaguars quarterback Gardner Minshew. And Chargers quarterback Tyrod Taylor. Really? I guess Rodgers must be above him because Rodgers is better than almost everybody on this list right now. Kaepernick's 81 also matches Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, and it's only one number behind Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins and Colts quarterback Phillip Rivers at 82. And while this is only the opinion of the people who set the ratings for the Madden game, not actual NFL scouts, this is the company in which the NFL has entrusted its official video game, and right or wrong, the company has pegged Kaepernick at an 81, which, even if it's a little off, represents an indictment of a league of teams that have collectively shunned Kaepernick since he became a free agent in March of 2017. So I've got a few problems with this. I've got multiple problems with this, to be completely honest off of this. First off, rookie year and year after rookie year, Colin Kaepernick probably had an 81 overall quarterback rating. But now they're expecting me to believe that a 32-year-old who hasn't played in 5 years also has an 81 rating, when he had a negative quarterback rating on his last season. No, this is social justice points all together here. Yeah, like I said, if they use rookie year Colin Kaepernick, yeah, I could believe it. But with everything, with the hair, with the beard, and everything else that they're going to try and push this in, the reason that they're pushing this in, of course, is because, well, it's Colin Kaepernick. He's such a social justice hero. No, he is not an 81 rated quarterback. Not by a fucking long shot. Dude, the reason the dude got benched is because he sucked, and I've been saying this right from the beginning of all of this. Now, yes, Colin Kaepernick was very, very excited for his first 3 seasons to say, I am undefeated against the Green Bay Packers. And then they annihilated him in the beginning of his 4th season. Just destroyed the 49ers at the beginning of his 4th season. But he also started dropping off everywhere else, too. He had 3 really good seasons. He was a great quarterback. And then they benched him because he started to suck. And then he did his social justice thing. And then they fired his ass. And once again, I am going to put this out there. The reason that Kaepernick got fired has absolutely nothing to do with his social justice platform. Okay, let me back that up and say it might have a little bit to do with it because he actually probably would have made a really good backup quarterback for a lot of these teams throughout the league. But his contract was huge. He was getting huge amounts of money because he had 3 really good seasons. He wasn't going to take a pay cut. He was going to cry and bitch about a pay cut and then say he was being oppressed by the white man because he was going to get a pay cut. So that meant that nobody wanted to touch him. And on top of this all, Aaron Hernandez killed a man and continued playing. There are repeated reports of spousal abuse, alcoholism, vandalism, and various other crimes amid players of amid players of football, professional football. And they continue to play. If Kaepernick was still playing the way that he did in his rookie year or the 2 seasons following, every team would be clamoring over themselves to sign him. They wouldn't give a damn if he was kneeling on the side of the sidelines. If he still played like the 81 quarterback rating, people would be jumping over themselves to go and sign this guy. And they would just tell the cameras to stay off of him while he was kneeling. The only reason that he is on the unemployment right now is because he fucking sucks. Plain and simple. He sucks at football. So that's what I have to say about that. Let's keep going here. I've got a short, brief one here, then I'll read the article that goes along with it. I've actually got a couple about some colleges that are having some problems with their students coming in. So, from Abed Ayub, from U of M, Dearborn, the non-POC cafe, or White Cafe. Anyway, I wonder what the menu looks like for the non-POC cafe at UM Dearborn. If they have chocolate hummus, I am calling for a boycott. Update, it seems like UM Dearborn has 2 competing cafes. I get the intention, but this was not thought out and very lazy. Update, an apology from UM Dearborn regarding the cafe issues. So, I didn't read this article coming into this either, but I'm not sure what's going on with this, but apparently the University of Michigan is having some problems with their race relations. So let's see what the Detroit Metro Times has to say here. UM Dearborn apologizes after it promoted a non-POC cafe so white people could talk about their white feelings, from Geraldine Jordan. It wouldn't be 2020 if a college didn't attempt to host a whites-only event intended to give white people a platform to discuss their feelings about being white, without people of color around to make them feel uncomfortable. Well, according to a now-deleted event listing, the University of Michigan Dearborn Center for Social Justice launched a virtual discussion group for non-POC to gather and discuss their experiences as students on campus. And as non-POC in the world, the group was advertised on the UM Dearborn website and on the Instagram as the non-POC Cafe, which would take place recurring bi-monthly via Zoom. Shortly after announcing the group for white people, another group, the Bi-POC Cafe, has launched, which was a virtual meeting setup for those UM Dearborn students that identify as being from marginalized racial, ethnic, cultural communities. Both groups were slated to take place on Tuesday between 2 and 3 p.m. Imagine getting those Zoom links mixed up. Woof. It didn't take long, however, for the college to release a formal statement admitting that they took the issue with how their segregated discussion groups were described. UM Dearborn sincerely regrets that terms used to describe the cafe events held on September 8th, the statement reads, "The terms used describe these virtual events, and the descriptions themselves were not clear and not reflective of the university's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion." The statement published Wednesday also says the UM Dearborn remains committed to fostering and maintaining an inclusive campus environment, and that the original intent of the cafe events was to give students from marginalized communities a place to exist freely without having to normalize their lives and experience. As for the white people, the statement says their white group was supposed to give white people an opportunity to deepen their understanding of race and racism without harming or relying on students of color to educate them. Alright, first things first, this is fucking stupid right off the bat. This is stupidity beyond fucking belief. Right off the bat, that's the first thing I'm going to say about this, is that this is stupid. Now, the only reason that any of this got any attention whatsoever is the fact that one of these cafes was for white students only. Nobody would have said a goddamn word about this. Not word one about this. if they hadn't had a whites only one. If they had had a blacks only event, a Hispanics only event, an Asians only event, or any other, or even a mix of all these people, any kind of event other than a whites only event, nobody would have ever heard a word about this. But because there's a whites only event to this now, this is horrible. This is racist. This can never exist. We can never have something like this. Don't you know that the whites only space is the whole world? Don't you know that? That's because that's the way that they made it. Now, I do not condone the University of Michigan for trying to do this. This was wrong on all levels. But once again, it's like I say in all of politics, anywhere. The first thing you need to do on anything political that you feel very strongly about is reverse the roles. At this point, usually it's reverse it if it's a Democrat president or a Republican president. But at this point, like I said at the beginning, reverse the roles entirely. Think about what would have happened if this would have been a people of color only cafe where they can come out and express their grievances and learn more about the importance of race without having to rely on their white counterparts. They'd be praised as fucking heroes. They'd be brave. Michigan would probably get a Nobel Peace Prize for it. But because it was about white people, it needs to be shunned and hatred needs to come from it. Alright, let's keep going here. Speaking of college stupidity. From WKOW over at Madison, Wisconsin. Dane County asked UW-Madison to send undergrads who live in dorms home. This comes to me from Yaderhe over in the Beauty and the Beta Frozen North Discord group. Thank you for putting this up there for me. I don't think they give an author on this site. Nope, no author. Due to the rise in COVID-19 cases on the UW-Madison campus, Dane County Executive Joe Parisi is asking university officials to require undergraduates living in residence halls to move back home for the rest of the semester. Since September 1st, at least 74% of Dane County's new COVID-positive cases were from the UW, Parisi said in his letter. According to the initial contact tracing from Public Health Madison and Dane County, as of Wednesday, there are at least 46 separate outbreaks affiliated with UW-Madison, Parisi said. In a written response, UW-Madison Chancellor Rebecca Blank said she shared Parisi's concern, but pointed to her recent request that students avoid in-person contact as a reason to be patient. The university recently entered a 2-week period of reduced activity for undergraduates, but recognizes that cases will continue to rise among students in the short term, Blank said. We will continue to evaluate our operations in light of this changing situation. After the release of Parisi's letter, UW-Madison says it received a number of questions about whether the students living in campus residence halls will be sent home. The university says it does not believe asking students to leave the residence halls is warranted at this time. It says it has taken a number of actions to slow the spread of the virus, and additional actions will be announced soon. Okay, I gotta ask, in all honesty, first off, here's what Dane County is requesting. Require undergraduates living in residence halls move back home for the rest of the semester. Establish more on-campus quarantine facilities. Triple the number of UW-Madison contact tracers within the next 30 days. Increase testing capacity at the UW campus. So first and foremost, I gotta ask, number one, as contagious as they say that this all is, what did you think was going to happen when school started? Honestly, when people were moving, excited to get out of the house for the first time and go off to a exotic, far-off place like Madison, Wisconsin, with the UW there, what did you think was going to happen? And second off, we're hearing cases over and over again. That's all that we're hearing right now is cases. You know what you're not hearing? Is deaths. Because that number is no longer politically expedient for anybody that's analyzing any of this. The deaths, there's so many deaths. Well, the caseload is huge, but people are recovering from it. And this is the final straw for me off of this. And we're going to talk a bit more about this in the next article, talking about Northeastern University. But, okay, I understand the fact that now these kids are going to go out and distance learn. They're going to go home, they're going to learn from their laptops or whatever. Some of them might come into campus. Some of them, it's not going to be feasible for them to come into campus. But some of them are going to come into campus and learn in class with a mask on or whatever the fuck they're going to do. But they're still going to get the education. That's going to be something different between Northeastern University. But are they going to get a refund for the money that they paid up front to live in these residence halls? Because you pay up front for that, by the way. Do you get a refund from that because they're closing the residence halls if you're going to send them home? Or are you just going to keep taking the money over and over again? There's so much here that they didn't think about when they started this off. And you've had since March to figure this out, if this was really a big problem. And I really don't see this as being a big problem anymore. I see people just sitting here waiting it out until after the election so they can go right back to normal. All right, speaking of Northeastern, let's have a look at what's over there. Northeastern dismisses 11 first-year students for partying. They won't get their $36,500 tuition back. From Laura Krantz. Northeastern University has dismissed its 11 first-year students after they were caught violating social distancing rules, the school announced on Friday. The latest and most aggressive attempt to prevent the pandemic from disrupting plans to return to Boston's campuses this fall. These students were caught in the Westin Hotel, which is being used as a temporary dormitory this semester, on Wednesday night, without masks and not social distancing. I'm sure that a lot of them were fucking making out, according to university spokeswoman Renita Newell. The dismissed students will not be allowed to take courses from home this semester, but will be permitted to return in the spring, Newell said. They were part of a special one-semester program for freshmen that was prepared and cost $36,500. That money will not be refunded. The students were asked to move out immediately, be tested for COVID-19, enter quarantine if they test positive, and then leave. Their university housing payments will not be refunded, per university rules. Northeastern is one of several large universities in Boston that have brought students back to campus this semester amid strict guidelines that aim to prevent an outbreak of the virus, like the ones that have shut down schools elsewhere in the country, like the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Mimi Chapman, the faculty chair at UNC and a dean for doctoral education in the School of Social Work, said the Northeastern gathering sounds different than the large parties and gatherings that they contended with, but many of which originated in fraternities and sororities. That feels a little extreme on one hand, she says at the dismissals. On the other hand, if you are bringing students back, and if they really want to be on campus, it doesn't take very much for a situation to start spiraling out of control, she said. Myron Cohen, an epidemiology professor at UNC directly involved in that campus's response to the virus, said the most effective way to prevent outbreaks is by changing their behavior, but that can be difficult among strong-headed 18-year-olds. We don't have a biological tool, we only have behavior change, and we now know that students are an extremely vulnerable population. If you want to keep your campus open, how do you inspire behavior change? It's airborne. It's extremely contagious. Everybody is extremely vulnerable. Everybody. But children are by and large recovering from this. Late teens are by and large recovering from this. 20-somethings are by and large recovering from this. 30-somethings are by and large recovering from this. The elderly are the ones that are getting this and dying. And no, if you kicked me out of school and then took my tuition, you and my attorney would be having a fucking conversation at this point. Because you are not going to get my money and not give me a service back. I don't care what your justification is. So, that's what we're going to see off. Even prorated. No, that's not going to happen. So that's what we're seeing up out of Northeastern. I'm going to save that for Monday. I've got one here from the Hill. Also came to me from Elaine over on Twitter, by the way. Dozens of Austrians with no U.S. affiliation get coronavirus stimulus checks. Report. Hundreds of Austrians have received U.S. coronavirus stimulus checks despite being ineligible, according to the Washington Post. Several of the recipients were puzzled to get the checks, including pensioner Manfred Barnreiter, 73, who said he believed he was the victim of a scam at first. We quietly went to the bank, where we were told they'll see if it's real. Barnreiter told Austrian public broadcaster ORF. 3 days later, we had the money in our bank account. Barnreiter, who worked briefly in the U.S. in the 60s, received the full $1,200, as did his wife. Neither are citizens of the U.S. or live there, which are required to be eligible for the checks. People initially thought it's a treacherous form of fraud, but the checks were real, a spokeswoman for Austria's Oliver Bank told the Washington Post. The report comes the month after NPR reported thousands of foreigners who once worked in the U.S. had accidentally received checks. Government officials attributed to the error to likely tax return errors. Yeah, I can talk. 3 Austrian bank branches said that as of Wednesday, they had cashed approximately 200 American stimulus checks. None of the banks could say how many were cashed by people ineligible for the payments. Barnreader told ORF he would likely spend the money in the U.S. once travel restrictions imposed due to the pandemic are relaxed. Initially, I felt bad, thinking those poor Americans, maybe they need the money more urgently than we do here in Europe, he said. But in the grand scheme of things, he said, it's peanuts. And you really want the government involved in your health care? Really? When they do shit like this. And you also wonder why the stimulus package cost $3 trillion and Nancy Pelosi wants another $3 trillion. This whole thing is rife with errors. The government can't even send a check out to every U.S. citizen properly. And you want them involved in your healthcare and your education. I'm going to say absolutely fucking not. Alright. Another one out of Boston here. From the Boston Patrolmen's Association over on Twitter. Sadly, one of our officers had a bad experience with Ace Hardware store in Alston today. While in the store, an employee stated, "I smell bacon." When the officer asked for an apology, he was told there'd be none. In response, items purchased were returned and a customer lost. So let's see what Newsweek has to say about this. Ace Hardware employee refuses to apologize after saying, "I smell bacon," to a cop. From Christina Zhao. The Boston Patrolmen's Association on Wednesday said an Ace Hardware employee refused to apologize after saying, "I smell bacon," to one of the officers. Sadly, one of our officers had a bad experience, Ace Hardware store in Alston today. While in the store, an employee stated, "I smell bacon," the BPPA tweeted. When the officer asked for an apology, he was told there'd be none. In response, items purchased were returned and a customer lost. The bacon remark further riffs on the derogatory term pig, often used in anti-police rhetoric to address law enforcement officials. Shortly after it was posted on Wednesday afternoon, the tweet quickly garnered thousands of likes and comments before propelling Ace Hardware to trend on social media platforms. The incident also spurred a heated debate with hundreds of users putting forth their opinions on whether the employment and store should issue an apology to the BPPA and officers involved. Newsweek reached out to Ace Hardware for a comment. And then we have more on the George Floyd thing. So, if that was my employee, and I found out about this, he would be gone instantly. Because a police officer's money spends exactly the same as a protester's money. Exactly the same as a middle-aged mother's money. Exactly the same as a first-time homebuyer's money. See, all of these people, their money spends the same. Now, if this guy gets insulted by one of my employees, and he goes back and tells all of his other cop buddies that if they go to the Alston Ace Hardware, they're not going to go shop there either. And that is thousands of customers, at least hundreds of customers, that are no longer going to shop at Ace Hardware. Now, on top of that, for Ace Hardware Corporate, this story just became national. Guess what's going to happen to the rest of the Ace Hardwares? Police, supporters of police, Republicans in general, are not going to go shop at Ace. That's millions of customers across this country that are not going to go shop at Ace Hardware. Because some kid, some clerk at one of my stores in the greater Boston area couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut. Now, once again, I'm no fan of policing, especially with all of the laws that are on the books. Before we take out some of the police officers, we need to take out some of the laws for victimless crimes. That's the first step. But I'm no big fan of policing as it's set up right now. But that doesn't mean I'm going to turn away money. I am not going to turn away money the way that this kid did. This kid would be fired. Like I said, if I was the Ace manager, I would fire this kid before Ace Corporate fired me for letting this kid stay. I know, I thought that was interesting. All right. Looks like I got one more here, and then we'll do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, and we'll head on out of here. All right, it's Nick Sandman. I'm a pro-life conservative Republican college student who won't let cancel culture silence me. This is an opinion piece from Fox News from Nick Sandman himself. Beginning the college year during the coronavirus pandemic is difficult enough for millions of students, but at the beginning of my freshman year at Transylvania University in Kentucky is being made even more difficult by an unwarranted attack against me by the cancel culture due to my conservative views. Even before I started college, I was the subject of a lot of unwanted attention following media coverage of a school trip I took in January of 2019 to Washington, D.C. I wore a MAGA hat, expressed my support for President Trump as I participated in a pro-life rally at the Lincoln Memorial with fellow students from Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky. As you may have heard, I was confronted by a Native American activist who stood in front of me and began chanting and banging a drum. I simply stood there and smiled, but some media accounts falsely portrayed me and my fellow students as aggressors who provoked a confrontation. I filed a lawsuit against the Washington Post and CNN. With that behind me, I recently began my freshman year at Transylvania University in Kentucky, but unbelievably, an official at the ACLU, a liberal group that claims to be dedicated to defending free speech, criticized the university last week for admitting me, saying my admission was a stain on the school. In a Facebook post, Kentucky ACLU staffer Samuel Crankshaw wrote of me that this kid clearly is a provocateur in training with no intention of learning. He exists only to troll, intimidate, and play victim. I've never met Crankshaw. He knows nothing about me besides news stories regarding my trip to Washington and a lawsuit. Yet he still tries to cancel me and demand that I be denied admission to a college. Why? Because he seems outraged that my conservative values didn't align with his left-wing ideology. So, here's the honest truth for me. I'm going to come out and say this straight up. Nick, unless you are going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, something that absolutely 100% requires you to have a college degree, with all the money you just got off of CNN and WAPO, go start a business. Go work your way up from the bottom of some place and get life experience that way. And start a business. Start a business of your own. You have fuck you money. You have a lot of fuck you money. Now, yes, I understand Transylvania University was probably excited to take you on because you're going to pay cash, because you can, but you're just going to go in there. Everybody knows who you are in a university with a highly liberal dent and get indoctrinated to believe the things that university wants you to believe. Go start a business. Absolutely, go start a business. Learn a trade, work as a journeyman, and start a business. Do what you want to do, but I wouldn't, if I was in your position, I would not be going anywhere near a college right now. But that's all that I have on that one here. Let's do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, and then we'll head on out of here and go check out the Daily Ignoramus. All right. So, thing that I like today comes to us via the Daily Wire. Black jogger gets stopped by police, responds in a calm manner. Then sheriff offers him a job. Midget B is probably jumping up and down right now. As soon as, if he watches the replay of this or if he watches this live. He's seeing this right here at the top and just jumping up and down right now. But let's see what Joseph Curl has to say. Joseph Griffin was out for a jog late last month in a Deltona, Florida neighborhood. Griffin is a former military policeman and works as a registered nurse, so when he was stopped by police, he responded as such a guy would. He was calm and cooperative. Deputies stopped him for fitting the description of a burglary suspect they were searching for. WSAV-TV reported the deputies said they were looking for a black male with a white tank top, dark shorts, and a beard, which Griffin matched. Griffin pulled out his phone and began live streaming on Facebook. "Just bear with me because you fit the description," the deputy is heard saying in the video. "I'm not going to say you're guilty, but my surgeon's telling me to detain you." Griffin tells the deputy he just had a daughter born 2 days ago. "Again, buddy, you're not under arrest," the deputy says. Griffin moves to put his cell phone down as he's placed in handcuffs, but the deputy then offered to hold Griffin's cell phone for him to continue live streaming the interaction, the station notes. He keeps calm and tells the deputy, with everything going on, it's just a little bit scary. "Seeing it through our eyes," one deputy says, and later adds, "We appreciate you being very cooperative." "I'm not trying to get shot over this," Griffin said with a smile before laughing. "Let's avoid that race card, cause I ain't here. I promise you that," the deputy says. Another deputy brings the witness to the scene, and he's not a match, the deputy says. Griffin then is released from the handcuffs. "Wrong place, wrong time," he says into his phone, again with a laugh. The deputies then express their gratitude to Griffin and that he remained calm and apologized for the inconvenience. Volusia County Sheriff Chitwood applauded both sides. "These deputies did an outstanding job given the limited information they had about a call in progress," he said. Likewise, Mr. Griffin was calm and cooperative, even though he had reason to be frustrated with the inconvenience. Then Chitwood even offered Griffin a job with the Sheriff's Department. "Mr. Griffin is a military veteran and a medical professional, and I told him we'd train and hire him as his deputy in a second if he ever wants a new job," he said. "Everyone involved in this deserves recognition for a job well done." Now, I like the fact that, given everything that we see going on in the world, Griffin had every reason to come out and say, "Man, I'm being persecuted right now." He had every reason to fly off the handle. And honestly, a lot of other men would have done that. So this is why this is the thing that I like. This is absolutely why this is the thing I like. There is something that I don't like about this. This isn't the thing that I hate, but there's something that I don't like about this. And that is the fact that everybody needs to be praised right now for not fucking up. And you shouldn't get praise for not fucking up. If you're doing your job as prescribed, then it's just doing your job. I mean, it's like Hagopian was talking about yesterday. I got into it a little bit with Todd Hagopian over on Twitter, which I owe him an article anyway, because he said the same thing about the Nobel Peace Prize thing. President Trump is getting nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for not making a war in 365 days. Well, no, he's getting offered the Nobel Peace Prize nomination for brokering a peace deal between Jews and Muslims in the Middle East, between Israel and the UAE. Something that we never thought we'd ever see in our lifetimes. But Hagopian did hit a point right on the head with that, because you're not supposed to be praised for not doing the wrong thing. You're supposed to be praised for going above and beyond and doing the right thing. So I don't like that, but I do like the fact that everybody was calm in this situation. Everybody was able to get along. The race tensions are starting to subside once again. Hopefully, this continues into a trend. Hopefully, this becomes a great trend. And just like the video that we saw last week, or yesterday rather, where the guy who was getting arrested got up and got the upper hand on the cop, and then everybody in the hood came in and started beating the crap out of the arrestee. Because they don't want to see this shit hit their neighborhoods. They don't want to see any of this hit their neighborhoods. So, yeah, absolutely. I like this. All right, now let's do a thing that I hate, and then we'll head on out of here. So, from Fox News. Pelosi's San Francisco salon is going out of business. Owner describes receiving nothing but negativity. "I'm actually afraid to go back to the city," Erica Caius tells Tucker Carlson. From Angelica Stabile. San Francisco hair salon owner Erica Caius is shutting her doors for good after controversy over a visit by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last week destroyed her business, she told Tucker Carlson tonight, Wednesday. "I'm actually done with San Francisco and closing my doors, unfortunately," she announced. Fox News obtained surveillance video last week of Pelosi visiting the salon for a hair wash and blowout, despite the fact that San Francisco salons were closed at the time due to the coronavirus pandemic. The video showed Pelosi walking through the interior of a salon without wearing a mask. Caius told host Tucker Carlson she was attacked for exposing Pelosi. "I started to just get a ton of phone calls, text messages, emails, and all my Yelp reviews saying that they hope that I go under, that I fail," she said. So just a lot of negativity towards my business. Kios said the negativity has made her hesitant to return to San Francisco, where she has lived for the past 15 years. I'm actually afraid to go back. It's a little scary and sad, she said. I do have a lot of positive calls and text messages from clients, but other than that, nothing but negativity. And that is the end of the article. I thought that was going to go on with that, but that's... First and foremost, Nancy Pelosi, even if you were set up, you knew what the rules were. You absolutely knew what the rules were, so you should not have gone in there and tried to skirt the rules because you're so high and mighty and above everybody else. So no, you get no sympathy from me for the fact that you got caught with this. Not one shred of sympathy for me off of this. But you've also shut down a small business, which you try to claim you're championing small business. You're a champion of small business, and you just want to see all the small businesses thrive. No, you just shut a small business down, sent hundreds, potentially, of people to Great Clips or some other corporate store, and sent one of your constituents out of your district. I hope you get voted out come November, because there's no way we can't keep seeing this. And this is the person that everybody on the left wants to be president, by the way. President Pelosi. I can't believe this is happening, but absolutely 100%. Thank you for creating a Trump supporter. And it also appears that the salon owner has raised $300,000 off of various platform sites. So she'll be able to move out to somewhere inland where you can buy a house for $100,000. Right here, and open up another salon, and I will go to that salon. If she comes to Wisconsin, which maybe she won't, well, maybe she will because it's Northern California and it's a little bit cooler up there, but if she comes to Wisconsin and opens a business in southern Wisconsin, I will go to that business on principle, because I do support small business as much as I can. Now, I know that the governor's orders have got a lot of them out of the way so that Woodman's and Festival Foods and the Piggly Wiggly all can thrive. But yeah, I will support small business whenever I can. And if Caius comes to Wisconsin, absolutely. I will support your business there too. So that is the thing that I hate today. Screw you, Pelosi, for pushing a small business and a citizen out of your constituency. And I hope that you are well received, Erica Caius, in wherever you take your adventure next. And that's going to be it for the news today. We will be back here later on tonight to do some video games. I'm going to get out of work. I think I'm going to try and get out of work a little bit early, so we can get out here and get started on that early. We'll do some more Fallout New Vegas, and we'll see if we can make the decision whether we just cut to the end at this point or if we continue exploring the Mojave. I know we've got over 100 hours into it at this point, so it'll be a decision. Maybe we want to play a different video game. Maybe we just want to see this one out to the end, but we will see what happens tonight. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.